For our book talk review, we had Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer.
On our roadmap, we introduced six different points, which is the introduction, the author's thesis, evidence of thesis, strengths and weaknesses, personal opinion, and recommending the book. In Braiding Sweetgrass, there's four main stories that reflect back on us, and the first two are the meaning of sweetgrass, which represents kindness, healing, gratitude, and indigenous traditions. It symbolizes the connection between humans and the earth, and it serves as a reminder to take only what is needed and give thanks. It acts as a metaphor for braiding together science and indigenous knowledge. In the Sky Woman story, it teaches the world is built through gifts and cooperations, not punishment. Animals help create land, showing early interdependence between humans and nature. Her planting the seeds represents gratitude as a first human act. It establishes a it establishes a worldwide view of abundance and shared responsibility. Reciprocity is another key point, which is like humans must give back to the earth for what they receive. It encourages active stewardship, not passive appreciation. It rejects the interaction and promotes mutual thriving between people and ecosystems. And gratitude creates more sense of responsibility and ethical actions. The last one is gift economy, which nature gives freely, operating on a system of gifts rather than commodities. Gifts come with obligations of care, sharing, and gratitude. Value grows through use of relationship, non-profit. Sweetgrass grows better when it's harvested responsibility.
Okay, so second is for the author's thesis. The main thesis is humans must restore a reciprocal, respectful relationship with the natural world by combining the indigenous wisdom, scientific knowledge, and the practice of the gratitude. The Kimmer argues that the earth is not merely a resource to be used, but a living, generous teaching deserving of care and reciprocity. Through her blend of the indigenous teachings, ecology, and personal storytelling, she knows that the sustainability depends on recognizing our kinship with all living things and giving back to the earth as it gives to us. The book's core message is that healing the environment begins with healing our relationship to it through the gratitude, responsibility, and balance between traditional knowledge and modern science.
The author uses multiple narratives to back up this thesis. She describes how many native languages call plants those who take care of us, showing that the earth gives to us and is deserving of care in return. She also describes the story of Sky Woman, which is a story of creation, showing that creation itself was only possible through the natural world aiding Sky Woman, and that she was part of nature herself, describing the reciprocal relationship between humans and nature described in the thesis. Additionally, her description of the honorable harvest, which describes never taking more than you need, giving thanks, and offering something back, demonstrates the indigenous practices of equilibrium and how promoting equilibrium and respect within the environment and people provides more in return. She additionally solidifies this idea scientifically with the sweetgrass experiment, which shows that respectfully harvested sweetgrass grows more vigorously than untouched plots. This shows how there is a scientific relationship between the scientific world and indigenous teachings, further solidifying this thesis.
The strengths of the thesis. The strengths of the thesis, I think, come from Kimmerer's life stories she tells. First being Sky Woman, the origin story, and then the collection of maple sugar with her daughters. I think both tell a story of her relationship and her respect deeply for nature and its beings. I also think that another strong story from Kimberly's life is her talk about negativity of optimizing harvest. So basically, that in the United States or globally, we try to optimize harvest so that we can harvest as much, but the negativity of it is that we over um, turn the earth and we don't leave anything for the rest of animals. And then second, I believe that Kimmerer asks rhetorical questions that are part of the thesis. I think one pivotal point is she asks what's the relationship between humans and nature. And I think before we read the book, we believe that humans are above, but as we read, we find a deep respect for the other animals and other things in nature. And then also, I think we pivot our language and our viewpoints towards non-living beings and how disrespectful it kind of is to call it it instead of they or them. And then second is how do immigrants become natives, just like Sky Woman was an immigrant when she fell out of the sky, and then how she became native to or became one with the earth.
A weakness of this thesis is that the Western viewpoint and modern economic practices make the mindset of take only what you need almost impossible, and this is elaborated more in the rebuttal.
And the rebels of the thesis. So like what the weakness is reciprocity on a large scale is very impractical, like global scales or things we talked about in class, like food chains, where everything is so connected. And I think reciprocity is too optimistic about how humans would behave with each other. And then, secondly, I think replacing indigenous society could technically be replacing another homogenous society for another, where other people's beliefs that are not in line with indigenous would be not taken seriously or be replaced. So I think there'd be a um, negative side of that. And then also, we only learn about one or maybe a few indigenous groups out of 1,000 that are in the United States. So with only learning indigenous from this book, we are overgeneralizing what indigenous ideology, culture, and traditions are.
Okay, so now is for personal opinion. The Braiding Sweetgrass really struck me because it weaves together scientific understanding and indigenous wisdom in a way that feels both human and enlightening. And Kimmer encourages the readers to see nature not as something to control, but as a community we are part of. And her gentle storytelling makes ecology personal, and her focus on reciprocity, giving back to the earth, offers a hopeful perspective. I especially loved how she blends poetic language with botany, showing that science can be emotional and connected. By the end, it felt like she braided together gratitude, responsibility, and wonder.
Recommending braiding sweetgrass. I would recommend braiding sweetgrass because it teaches a beautiful message about gratitude and caring for the earth. The book blends in science and indigenous stories in a way that's easy to understand and meaningful. The writing is peaceful and reflective, making it a comfortable and inspiring read.
And then the final thoughts. So key takeaways were I think we all gained an introduction to a new perspective and how we could implement that into our daily life. I think we learned more about indigenous beliefs and traditions like maple syrup collection and then basket weaving. And then also I think this book really shines a light into Kimler's life, and those stories are really entertaining to learn not only what her life was like, but also how that shaped her beliefs and how that we could take those beliefs and really critically think about them. And then also, I think Himmler gives a really good hope for the future, where I think right now, the future seems kind of bleak and there's no bright future. But however, I think Himmler gives some alternative like perspectives on how humans could, prevent more climate change from happening while being in a more reciprocal or a respectful relationship with other humans on Earth or other animals or other parts of nature. Thank you.
This presentation was the book Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Walt Kimmerer.